Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into a powerful story called Scent of Apples by Bienvenido Santos. Now, this isn't just a story. It's a journey into the feelings of missing home, even when that home is half a world away. It might seem a little hard to understand at first, but by looking at the author's life and the history behind the story, we can see why it's so meaningful. Let's explore this together. Scent of Apples follows a Filipino immigrant living in America, far from the home and family he left behind. Through his story, we see the struggle to fit into a new life while holding on to your roots. Sound interesting? Let's jump in. Plot summary. To summarize, we'll break it down into the 5 key parts of the plot. Here's what happens in Scent of Apples. Exposition. The story begins with our narrator, a Filipino writer, who visits Kalamazoo, Michigan, in America to give a lecture. Kalamazoo is a small city known for its friendly community, vibrant art scene, and beautiful parks. While there, he meets Celestino Fabia, a Filipino man who has lived in America for many years. Fabia invites the narrator to his home, starting a journey into the immigrant experience. Rising action. The narrator travels to Fabia's simple rural home, where he meets Fabia's American wife, Ruth, and their son, Roger. As they talk, Fabia shares memories of the Philippines, making it clear how much he misses it. The apple trees around his house, an American symbol, contrast with his deep connection to his Filipino roots. Climax. At the peak of the story, Fabia confesses to the narrator about his deep loneliness and the pain of not fully belonging in either America or the Philippines. He describes how, despite living in the US for years, he often feels isolated from American culture and misses the warmth of his homeland. This moment reveals the heart of his struggle as an immigrant. Caught between two worlds, he grapples with his identity and longs for a sense of home that feels just out of reach. Falling action. As the narrator spends more time with Fabia, he notices how Fabia tries to blend Filipino and American customs in his life. For example, Fabia carefully tends to his apple garden, nurturing the trees as if he's cultivating a piece of home. He shares Filipino food such as fried chicken and rice, and he shows the narrator items like an old photograph of a Filipino woman that remind him of his homeland. Through these gestures, Fabia tries to stay connected to his roots while adapting to American life. Resolution. After Fabia drives the narrator back to his hotel, they say a simple goodbye. The narrator watches Fabia leave and thinks about his strong connection to the Philippines. He realizes how hard it is to let go of where we come from, even when we're far away. The narrator can still smell the apples, reminding him of Fabia's sadness and quiet strength. Setting. Now, let's talk about the setting. The story takes place in Kalamazoo, Michigan, a small American town, during the fall. The bright colors of the changing leaves and the smell of fresh apples fill the air. Fabia's home is a modest house surrounded by apple orchards, creating a cozy atmosphere. This setting stands in sharp contrast to the tropical Philippines he remembers, deepening his sense of homesickness. Characters. Let's meet our characters. 1. The narrator. A Filipino writer visiting America to give a lecture, providing insight into the immigrant experience and empathizing with Fabia's struggles. 2. Celestino Fabia. A Filipino immigrant who has lived in America for years, feeling torn between his life in the United States of America and his longing for the Philippines. He embodies the emotional challenges faced by many immigrants. 3. Ruth. Fabia's American wife, kind and supportive, who tries to understand Fabia's feelings but doesn't fully grasp his deep connection to his homeland. She represents the warmth of his new life. Next, let's discuss the conflict in the story. First, internal conflict, man versus self. Celestino struggles with his identity as a Filipino immigrant in America. He feels deep homesickness for the Philippines while trying to adapt to his new life, feeling torn between two worlds. Second, external conflict, man versus society. Celestino faces societal pressures and isolation in America. He often feels misunderstood and struggles to fit into a culture that may not fully appreciate his Filipino heritage. Theme. Now, let's highlight some of the key themes in Scent of Apples. Homesickness and nostalgia. The story explores Celestino's longing for home, illustrating the emotional weight of leaving one's homeland and the bittersweet nature of memories. Identity and belonging. Celestino grapples with his dual identity as a Filipino in America, highlighting the struggle to balance cultural heritage with the desire to fit in. Cultural displacement. The narrative addresses the feeling of cultural displacement that many immigrants experience, showing Celestino's challenges in navigating two worlds. Point of view. The story is told from the first-person point of view of the narrator, who is also a Filipino writer. This perspective is crucial because it allows us to see Fabia's life through the eyes of someone who shares a similar background and understands his struggles. As the narrator listens to Fabia's stories and reflects on his own experiences, we feel a deeper connection to the themes of homesickness and identity, making Fabia's journey even more relatable. Biographical and historical approaches to literary texts. Before we dive into the story, let's talk about two important ways to understand literature: the biographical and historical approaches. Biographical approach. This approach looks at the author's life and experiences to understand their writing. It explores how personal events and backgrounds shape the themes, characters, and settings in their work. Knowing the author's story helps us understand the text's meaning better. Historical approach. This approach examines the time period when a literary work was created. It considers the social, political, and cultural contexts that influence the story. By understanding the historical background, we can see how events of that time affect the characters and plot, showing us bigger social issues. Now, let's look at some important facts about Bienvenido Santos. He was born in 1911 in the Philippines. Santos moved to the United States for his education and faced challenges as an immigrant. His experiences in America, especially feelings of loneliness and homesickness, strongly influenced his writing. Santos often wrote about the lives of Filipino immigrants, showing their struggles to adapt while keeping ties to their homeland. Historical context. Scent of Apples was written when many Filipinos were moving to the U.S. for better jobs, especially after World War II. While they sought new beginnings, these immigrants often faced challenges like cultural differences, discrimination, and missing their home. This historical background adds depth to the story, reflecting the real experiences of many who lived during this time. Now here we are. Let's do the literary analysis using historical and biographical context. In Scent of Apples, Bienvenido Santos uses his own experiences as a Filipino immigrant in America. His background gives emotional depth to the story, especially through the character of Celestino Fabia. Fabia represents the struggles of many immigrants trying to find their place in a new country while feeling homesick. The historical context of post-World War II migration adds to this narrative, showing the social and cultural challenges Filipino immigrants faced. Santos's portrayal of Fabia's longing for home and the differences between American life and Filipino traditions reflect the experiences of many who sought new opportunities in the U.S. The themes of identity and belonging connect deeply with the historical struggles of these immigrants. By understanding Santos's life and the time he wrote in, we can appreciate the deeper meanings in the story, seeing it as not just one person's experience, but a reflection of a larger community's journey of Filipinos. And there you have it. Scent of Apples shows us the bittersweet feelings of leaving home and the struggle to belong. Bienvenido Santos helps us see that home isn't just a place, it's a part of who we are. Thanks for joining me in exploring this story. If you liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more video stories and analysis.